Hi everybody, Ollie here again at the Crafty Whisk. Today I'm going to share with you how I am going to start to catalogue all my stamps. I'm going to do a few of these books, brand by brand, and then the rest of my stamp collection I'm just going to do in themes. So today I'm just showing you my Clearly Besotted range. And I've got some little bits of washi tape there in my MISTI for where I want the corner of the stamp to be. And then I just use painter's tape to secure the whole stamp that comes from the package in there. All I've done is take off the backing sheet, and that's why I need to tape it down to the door of my MISTI so I don't have to fiddle with individual little stamps. And then I'm just doing it onto a piece of A5 cardstock. It's roughly about 170 GSM. It can be whatever GSM or pound that you want it to be. I just felt this was really good because it's not going to be too bulky in my craft room. And I'm just stamping it out with Memento Tuxedo Black. You can, again, use whatever ink you fancy. It doesn't really matter. These are not going to get coloured in. They're just literally to show me which stamp sets I have. So I'm doing a bulk lot of just stamping out each stamp set and then putting them aside. And then I'll continue with that process shortly, because I will be labelling each page as to what the stamp set is called. And I just have a little bit of a sticky mat in the bottom of my MISTI just to make things quicker so I don't have to worry about a magnet. And the paper I bought at Officeworks, and I bought it in an A4 ream, and I just asked them to cut it in half for me to give me some A5s, which they were happy to do. I think it was $1 a cut, so it's only $1. So it's the same process for all of the stamps. You might need to adjust where you put the painter's tape because sometimes the stamps finish and start in different places on the bit of plastic. But that's what's ideal with painter's tape. It doesn't leave any residue. I'm just using a homemade tool, for want of a better word, because I was doing a lot of these, so I didn't want my wrists to get sore. So it's just a weight to put on top of the door to get a clear stamped impression. So the next stage is labelling all my pages, and I use my Brother P Touch, and I just did it in capitals with the small 6mm tape on the top of each page. And then I'm also going to split them into subcategories as well. So the next step is I'm going to use, for the subcategories, I need to create tabs in my A5 little book. So I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers punch tab board, and there's really good instructions on how to use it. It's super easy. I just had a sample there of what the small, medium and large tab sizes would look like, and I keep that with the instructions. So it's just a matter of following the instructions. You do your first little punch with the little 2-hole guide. And then on the right there, I've just pointed out, is your small, medium and large size tabs. And then you do your second punch, whether it be small, medium or large. Then the excess you take on the other side of the machine, and it has a little knife so you can just cut off the excess bit of paper or cardstock. And that's your first tab. It is such an easy little punch board to use. And I don't want them to be left, right and centre, because I actually want them to sort of flow down. So I've made myself a little cheat sheet. I had experimented just with photocopy paper where I wanted all my tabs to sit. So that's what I've got written down there. I've just got written down the little guidelines of where I need to pop my cardstock to do all the tabs. Because on the bottom of the punch board, you can see all those little lines. They are all small, medium and large measurements for different size pieces of paper. So you can see there I've just got them nicely lined up. It did take a bit of trial and error. But the beauty is you're just using it with paper. So if you make a mistake, you just keep going. You can use another piece of cardstock, and the cardstock you've used won't go to waste because you can use it in something else. So I'm just double checking there that I am doing it correctly. And it also has a corner rounder as well in that little punch section, which I'll show you shortly. I opted not to corner round everything, but I will show you how to do it. And I'm just using cardstock that I had in my stash, colours of cardstock that I don't normally use or that I have a lot of. And Clearly Besotted, their packaging is bright pink. So I wanted to stay with the pink theme. So when at a glance I can tell, okay, that's my Clearly Besotted book. That's my Lawn Fawn book, which will be in a different colour. The only thing is Mama Elephant is also pink. So I'll have to kind of, figure out what I'm going to do there with the two different pinks. But this hopefully will save me from just rummaging through all of my stamps, wasting so much time not knowing what to use. So instead I can just take my books to the lounge room, the family's watching TV, and I can plan out what I'm going to use next in my stamps. And I'm going to be sorting my stamp tubs in the same order that I've got these in the books. So you can see there's a double set of holes there. If you want to corner round, you pop the little guide on the right hand holes. It does say this in the instructions as well. As you can see there, so the actual little feet are in the right hand holes, and it gives you a nice little corner rounder there. So that's all of my tab pages done. The bright pink is my cover, and I've just done a dummy test on a scrap piece just so I know where all the holes are going to be, because my pages are all A5, but the cover, the front and back cover, I've made just that fraction bigger. So all the pages, I can actually use the guidelines that are on my multi-cinch here. We are Memory Keepers multi-cinch. For A5, you use the A guide and you punch down. Then you remove your guide and you pop the little squares right up into the back, and that little knob on the side there goes down into your second last square hole. And this will ensure that your squares, or whatever shape you're using, all lines up. So I do that for the tab pages, and my normal pages are all the same size. They are all A5. And it all lines up beautifully. So you just continue to do that for all of your pages. And I'm testing the binding wires with this book, and my next one, which will either be Mama Elephant or Lawn Fawn, I'll try with the spiral punch. The ideal thing with the multi-cinch is you can buy the cartridges that have the different holes in it. So you're getting one tool but multiple uses. So you can see here, that's all my collection at the moment, and it was just too big for one book. So I've gone ahead and cut a front and back cover. Now, because it is slightly bigger than A5, I go and find the center of those and then just make a mark and just do a pencil line. And this will enable me to line up the center with the center point in my cartridge. You can see there's a center line on the base and a center line on the actual cartridge, which is that minty green color. So all I do is line up my line with the center line and punch. And then I can continue to do the punches. And I know I've gone over the edge with a couple of my punches. For these sort of books, I'm not concerned about that at all. If you're wanting to make a really nice book that didn't have those funny little bits at the end, you just make sure that you line your punch up so that you're not cutting over the edge. Now, that little piece I just showed you on the bottom is the waste collection. So it just comes out and then pops back in. So now I have my two books, and it's time to do the binding. So the binding wires have a fat end and a skinny end, and the fat end I don't know how else to describe it, goes on the side little pegs of your multi-cinch. And I'm not sure what happened there. My camera ran out of battery and I didn't realise. So this is the second book I'm actually showing you now. I did finish the first one. The multi-cinch wires or binding wires come in lengths of 12 inches, which is the ideal way to use them, the 12-inch length. Cut it down to what you need. Here I'm just using scraps just to see if it would still work. Personally, it is better to use one whole length than small little bits. So in future, I'll just use the small cut-off bits for smaller little books, because it's a bit tricky flicking all the pages and stuff with the 3 different ones in there. But that's okay. Again, it's only a catalogue. It doesn't matter. So the way they teach you to do it is to pop your back page, you flip it and put it on top of your front page. And that way the seam of the wires is hidden in the back page of your book. I actually didn't like how that turned out for the purpose I'm using this book for. So I've actually laid everything down from the back all the way up to the front cover, which goes against what they say, but it works better for my purposes here. So just have a play, just experiment. And I'm just sort of moving that end bit of wire in a bit, so it's a bit out of the way. Now, the other end of your multi-cinch is a clamp or a crimper. Clamp, I think, is a better word. And you pop your binding wires in there and you gently press down. The whole idea here is not to go all gung-ho and crimp everything or clamp everything at once. I did try that and it makes your wires go crooked and you end up having to take it all apart and use another wire. So it's gentle, bit by bit, until you get the closure that you want. Now this second book still ended up a little bit too bulky, so I had to go and do the clamping on the other side of the book as well, just to get it to close properly. So I think my next book I'm going to try the spiral system, because you can buy thicker, or not thicker, that's the wrong word, bigger gauge wires for the spiral. So that's how it looks there, and I'm just going to grab some little pliers and just make those little ends safe so they don't poke into me. So you just sort of bend them back in towards itself. Then you got no little bits of wire sticking out. And there you go. That book is almost done. I've still got to label the tabs and decorate the covers. But that's my 2 books. Now, I hear you ask, what happens when you buy more stamps? How do you put them in the book? It's a closed bound book. Well, they've got this little gadget as well, Mia Memory Keeper's Planner Punch. And it comes, if you buy the whole set, it comes with all these different little punches you can get. And it's got grid lines down the bottom to show you where to put it. There's a guide on the back for different size planners, so you know where to put the holes and things. Today I'm not using it as a planner. I am just using it for that square shaped hole with a center leg. Looks like a bit like a square mushroom. So I'm just marking the center of my page, and I've put the punch in the center of the contraption of the punch board. I'm lining up my 2 centers and pushing down, and that gives me a hole on either side of the center. So I know this is going to line up in my A5 book perfectly. And then you can see the little green mark there poking through. You just line up your punch hole with that and stamp down, or push down and it creates a next hole in the right space for you. And again, if you don't want to go all the way to the end and have that little bit there, like the little cutout at the end, you just adjust it so that you don't have to cut that bit. Again, I wasn't concerned because it's just a catalogue. Now, the little leg at the end of the square enables you just to push it down over your wires. And it's in. So you can add to your catalogues. You can take away from the catalogues. You can move them around. Now, I'm doing something a bit extra. I actually got this whole idea from Ashley from Plum Mashable. I'm just taking it a little bit further because I like to know what colours to colour each individual thing in. So I take a photo with my camera and with my phone, and then I link it up to my Canon Selfie little photo printer with the app, and I print the photo where I've used these stamps. So you can just go through. I actually go to the filter and add a little bit of depth to it because the printer does print it out a little bit paler than what your phone shows. And you can put writing on there. It's actually really cool. So I've just written there corner bookmark because that's what that photo is of. And I've just moved it to the side to match the orientation of my photo. Press print and it will print for me. It goes through, I think it's 4 times, adding a layer of colour each time as it goes. So while that's doing that, I'm just showing you that if I have spare die cuts from my stamped cards, I will adhere them to the front page of where the stamp set is, so I know what it looks like when it's been coloured in. And then I will write how I've coloured in, like if I'm using Copics, I'll put the Copic marker numbers on the back of the page. And you can see that I do those little strips. That's the photo all done. Beautiful. Oh, and I forgot to mention the photos are adhesive. So you can just peel off the backing paper and the photo becomes a sticker. Ideal for planners, scrapbooks, stamp catalogues like I'm doing. But you can see that little strip of colour dots there. That's how I test my colours when I'm colouring in. So when I'm showing you cards and all that I've done and I've got the Copic colours, I always have that little strip, and they're just leftover strips from cataloguing my stamps. They come in very, very handy. And I will put then that little strip will go into the relevant stamp packet. So I've got the colours there with my stamps, and I've also got the colours in my stamp catalogue. It's just the way I sort of roll. It's easier for me. And then if I'm doing like watercolours, again, I'll put down what colour watercolours, all that kind of thing. And then I stick the photo down in the bottom corner. And Bob's your uncle, all done. So let me know what you think, if you've got any different ideas. And please click subscribe and like. And I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.